G'day guys, welcome back to the Strength Culture YouTube channel. So without a doubt, one of the most common questions or requests we get from our clients is, can I have more volume in my training? Today I want to go through why you probably don't need more training volume. So James Krieger's volume landmarks give us an idea of how much volume we should be doing for hypertrophy, and it's updated over time based off the new research that comes out. So these are actually slightly different to when I last checked these about a year ago, so it's good to know they update them as more research comes out. So there's two key takeaways from these ones. Number one, we probably shouldn't exceed 6 to 8 sets per body part per session. More volume is better up until this point. After this point, we're probably at a point of diminishing returns. The second key point is that we probably shouldn't exceed 12 to 18 sets per body part per week. Now, of course, these are just based on averages. Some people will definitely be able to make progress with less than this, and some people may need more than this. But for the vast majority of you watching, these are pretty good guidelines to go for. So the main thing we can take from these is how we should structure our training week. It's not necessarily we need to be doing more sets. Maybe we just need to be structuring the sets across the week a bit more. So the typical kind of bro day of having 5, 6 exercises of chest on one day, it's obliterating them to the point where you can't even straighten your arm by the end of the workout, probably isn't the way to be going about things. If we're going to do no more than 6 to 8 sets per body part per session, it's probably going to be more like 3 days hitting our chest, 5 sets, 5 sets, 5 sets, or maybe we're doing 2 days of upper body rather, and 7 sets on one day and 7 sets on the other day. And so obviously we're talking about the research, and at risk of sounding like someone who's,
oh, what does the research in the
thinking just kind of more practically and from your own personal experience, I think this is pretty reasonable as to why this would make sense. Once you've done 1 or 2, maybe even 3 hard exercises of a particular body part, you're probably going to be smoked, and that's probably going to be around 6 to 8 sets, maybe a little bit more. I think it's pretty easy to see why if we're going 10, 12, 14 sets of a particular muscle group, we're probably getting to the point where, yeah, we're doing the exercise, but we're not getting as much out of it as we otherwise would. Versus if we have, say, 6 exercises done 2 or 3 times a week, we're going to be able to have a higher output of these exercises. We're going to be able to hit a higher weight, do more quality work, and as a result, get more out of it. Don't look to obliterate yourself in one day. Space out your training across the week and look to get more high quality work in, not just endless sets for the sake of it. So point 2, if you aren't prioritizing range of motion, do not add more volume. When we think about training volume, we generally think about the amount of sets we're doing. That definitely is the key part, but something else we need to take into consideration is the distance we are traveling. 3 sets done with full range of motion is probably more volume than 5 sets done with partial range of motion. We should be looking to get more out of the sets we're doing, and as a result, do more with less. Not everyone can use the same range of motion. I like to be notorious for using stupid range of motion, putting my butt on my calves when I'm doing bell squats, like getting my hands below my chest when I'm doing dumbbell bench press. Not everyone's like me. Not everyone is able to reach the same levels of range of motion. And for some people, doing really deep squats might just not agree with them. But I'd challenge you to ask yourself, is it my body can't tolerate this range of motion and it feels crap as a result? Or is it, I don't like the weights I have to lift when I use this range of motion, and if I try use the weights that I use with partial reps, it doesn't feel good. So just make sure you're challenging yourself. Could I use more range of motion, or is it my ego that's holding me back from not using a full range of motion and getting more out of the exercises we're doing? Thinking about kind of more long-term sustainability, which we'll get to a bit later as well, if we can keep the weight we're using on certain exercises lower, this will benefit us over the long term, because we can link to studies that have a relationship between load and injury occurrence. So of course, with our heavy power lifts, we have to add load to these. But if we can get away with using lighter weights on our more hypertrophy exercises, which should be making up a lot of the exercises that most of us are doing, we're going to lower our risk of injury and not needlessly accumulate excess fatigue on exercises that who cares what weight we're lifting on. Point 3, do you need more training volume, or do you just need to train harder? So obviously we are big proponents of RPE-based training at Strength Culture, and this whole conversation gives us an example of why RPE is so useful. If we aren't hitting at least an RPE of 6, it's not more sets or more volume that is holding us back from making progress. It is that we're just not training close enough to failure. Charlie likes to repeat over and over that proximity to failure is the stimulus. And this is true. We can grow muscle, we can gain strength anywhere from 3 reps all the way up to 30 reps, provided that we train close enough to failure. If we aren't, and we aren't making progress, and we think that adding sets is what is holding us back, it's probably not. We probably just need to be doing harder sets, doing more reps, getting closer to failure on the exercises that we're doing. Something we need to keep in mind is that rating RPE is a skill. We can think that we're training at a certain RPE, but we might not actually be. And we need to, somewhere in our program, make sure that we actually are hitting the RPEs we are supposed to. So a tool we can use is something like an AMRAP. Do 2 sets at a, say, RPE 7 to 8. And on that 3rd set, we do an AMRAP. We keep pushing until we think we're done and just keep pushing them out until we literally can't do any more. What we'll often find is we weren't as close to failure as we thought we were. And as a result, we weren't getting as much out of the exercises than we could have been. The research would also indicate this, as there's a study that Donnie can chuck up here, where people took the weight that they usually did for 10 reps on bench press. 50% of the subjects did 5 more reps and 25% did 10 more reps. So if you're watching this and you think you're training close enough to failure, chances are you're probably not. So obviously RPE is a way of rating how hard you're working, but forget about RPE for a second. We can't really program, or we can't really measure intent and effort. Yes, RPE is a way of going about it, but you just need to know and look within and think, am I actually trying hard? Do I look to some sessions and dread the weights I have to be hitting? Do I finish sessions and am I crawling out to my car because that's how stuffed I am for the session? If that never happens, more sets isn't what's holding you back. You just need to be willing to work a bit harder. Yeah, RPE is part of that, but part of that is just you just need to come into your sessions with the intent to get some hard work done, and that will probably do more for you than adding more sets.
Mr. Didier, what about percentage-based training?
So the final point we're going to go through is long-term sustainability. So I'm going to start with a bit of an anecdote. When I started working with my coach, Jeff, he noticed that I only had been training 4 days a week versus 5 times a week, which often people like to do. And he noted that that's probably why I came to him with no major injuries. I didn't really have any major niggles or ongoing things, and that's the truth, I never really have. I think there's something to be taken from that. Yes, we want to make progress, yet we want to get better. And people who want to add more volume, that's coming from a good place. It's a good attribute to want to do more. But more isn't always better, and more isn't always the way to go about things. We need to think that yes, maybe adding some more volume over the short term, over the 3 months, 6 months could be good for us, but we really want to think about the long term. For us to get to really big goals, it's going to take us 5, 10 years or beyond. So we shouldn't get stuck on short-term goals that are just up on the horizon. We should think, if I work reasonably hard and don't train too much, but just stay in the game, stay motivated, stay hungry, stay away from injuries, what will that mean for me down the long term? Well, how can I then avoid getting burnt out and then just keep putting in work over time to get to really big goals? So this also comes back to kind of the experience of our clients. Often people train 4 days a week and want to push to 5 days a week, but often we try to discourage them away from this because yes, they love training, they want to do more, they think that's going to help them get better. But if we think about having 3 full days off versus 2 full days off, doesn't seem like much, but over months and years, that's a lot of more time for us to have spending recovering, and that really can add up, and it can probably play a major part in us avoiding niggles, staying in the game longer, being able to make sustainable progress over the long term. So yes, working hard is a great attribute, wanting to do more is great, but also think about the long game. Work hard, but stay patient as well. Just a quick wrap up at the end for the 4 key points of this video. Number 1, James Krieger's volume landmarks. Try to stay within 6 to 8 sets per body part per day and 12 to 18 sets per body part per week. Number 2, prioritize range of motion. If you're doing quarter reps, if you're doing half reps, you probably don't need more sets. You probably need to train with more range of motion. Number 3, RPE. Are you actually training close enough to failure to be getting something out of the sets you're doing? You probably don't need more sets. You probably just need to learn what an actual RPE 7, 8, 9 feels like and spend some time there. And point number 4, long-term sustainability. Yes, doing more may help you in the short term, but play the long game. Think about what's not best for you now, but what's best for you over the long term of your training career. Thank you to everyone who's made it to the end of the video. We appreciate it. If you haven't made it this far, get stuffed. Also, I believe have we reached 5,000 yet? We're tickling 5,000. Let's make this the video where we get there. If you're watching the video and you're not subscribing, we're putting out a lot of great content on the regular. Thanks for watching. Happy lifting.
Thank you, Mr. Didier. Thank you.